boyfriend. Wait, where's the table? I know how ebooks work. There we go. 19. Haha. I got it. Okay. I can do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookish Babbles, the podcast where we reread our favorite books and chat about them. I'm your host, Alyson, and without further ado, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 43 of Bookish Babbles. Today, we are talking about chapters 19 to 21 of Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins, and we're officially on part 3, The Assassin. It's the beginning of the end, and I am not okay with it. And it'll be into the first series that we've read through on this podcast, so that feels weird. Anyway, we'll run a miss later. We still have some devastating chapters ahead of us, so gotta get through that first. Don't know what that voice was. It's fine. Don't think about it. So what's been going on lately besides, work, obviously? I got my tickets. Oh, text from my mother. Yes, I'll be home for dinner, Mom. Anyway, so I got my tickets to see Quantumania. I'm worried about everyone. I finally finished watching Andor. That was incredible, as the internet keeps saying. I also, I'm a little bit behind the trend, but my friend Sam got me to take the Soldier, Poet, King quiz, because if you've been on TikTok, you know the sound that's like, there will come a soldier who carries a mighty sword, that one, and everyone's trying to determine if they're a soldier, poet, king, and I thought for sure I was gonna be a poet, but nope, turns out I'm a king. Classic oldest daughter stereotype when it comes to this quiz. Thinks I'm one thing, nope, I'm the king, because I have to be responsible, or whatever. Anyway, what am I reading? Well, I finished What Lies in the Woods. It was freaking incredible. Reread Chain of Gold. Amazing. I have my copy of Chain of Thorns. It's so beautiful. But I haven't started reading it yet because I'm still rereading Chain of Iron. I think, did I talk about this last time? I can't remember. It's fine. That's really it. Oh, I did read this graphic novel called Coven that I got from the library, by Jennifer Duggan and Kit Seaton. It's what it sounds like. It's about a teenage girl who is introduced to her coven that her family's a part of, because they're all witches. And if you love witchy graphic novels, I recommend it. Anyway, so enough rambling from me, I guess. Let's just dive into the episode. So last week, Finnick and Annie got married. Katniss and Joanna became roommates and they trained for war. Katniss passes, Joanna does not. Katniss, Finnick, and Gale are assigned to Squad 451, aka the Star Squad. They're basically just going to be filming propos while in the field. And they are surprised to find that PETA has also been assigned to their squad, who is not exactly mentally stable, to say the least. Then again, is anyone in this book? This week, Squad 451 sets off multiple pods, which result in disaster. Katniss takes up a leadership position, and they have to journey through the sewers. Gross. So with all that being said, let's dive into chapter 19. So, like I said, we are officially on part 3, The Assassin. And how do you think I'm going to open this chapter? Say it with me now. With a reading. Yep, I know. Shocking. Who could have possibly guessed? Certainly not me, if I wasn't me. That didn't make any sense. just forget I said anything, guys. It's fun. Am I going to keep this in the episode? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see how I'm feeling when I'm editing, which should be in approximately 3 or 4 hours, because of course I'm doing it this at the last minute, where I'm recording and editing on the same night, because I'm an unorganized mess. It's fine, everyone. It's fine. I've never really seen Boggs angry before. Not when I disobeyed his orders or puked on him. Not even when Gale broke his nose. But he's angry when he returns from his phone call with the president. The first thing he does is instruct Soldier Jackson, his second-in-command, to set up a two-person, round-the-clock guard on PETA. Then he takes me on a walk, weaving through the sprawling tent encampment until our squad is far behind us. He'll try to kill me anyway, I say, especially here where there are so many bad memories to set him off. I'll keep him contained, Katniss, says Boggs. Why does Coin want me dead now, I ask. She denies she does, he answers. But we know it's true, I say, and you must at least have a theory. Boggs gives me a long, hard look before he answers. Here's as much as I know. The president doesn't like you. She never did. It was PETA she wanted rescued from the arena, but no one else agreed. It made matters worse when you forced her to give the other victors immunity, but even that could be overlooked in view of how well you've performed. Then what is it, I insist? Sometime in the near future, this war will be resolved. A new leader will be chosen, says Boggs. I roll my eyes. Boggs, no one thinks I'm gonna be the leader. No, they don't, he agrees. But you'll throw support to someone. Would it be President Coin or someone else? I don't know. I've never thought about it, I say. If your immediate answer isn't Coin, then you're a threat. You're the face of the rebellion. You may have more influence than any other single person, says Boggs. Outwardly, the most you've ever done is tolerate her. So she'll kill me to shut me up. The minute I say the words, I know they're true. She doesn't need you as a rallying point now. As she said, your primary objective to unite the districts has succeeded, Boggs reminds me. These current propos could be done without you. There's only one last thing you could do to add fire to the rebellion. Die, I say quietly. Yes, give us a martyr to fight for, says Boggs. But that's not going to happen under my watch, Soldier Everdeen. I'm planning for you to have a long life. Why? This kind of thinking will only bring him trouble. You don't owe me anything. Because you've earned it, he says. Now get back to your squad. Okay, so a little bit to unpack here. First, I've said it once, I'll say it again. Boggs is the best. He's the best father figure Katniss has ever had since her, actual dad died. I love you, Haymitch, but it's true. Boggs is the better father. Haymitch is quite literally the loving drunk uncle. And poor Katniss doesn't know how to handle someone looking out for her that, genuinely cares for her, at least outside of an inner circle. I mean, and second, poor PETA, he really is a pawn in this whole situation. Because you remember all the way back in book 1 when he said that what he wants more than anything is not to be a piece in their games? Because, to hold on to some sense of self. Well, that goal kind of went out the window when Snow hijacked him. And not only torturing him, but changed him so much mentally. He was so radically different from, who he actually is. So, yay, the Capitol did steal his identity and sense of self, and woohoo, and made him a piece in their games because, he was molded to be the perfect weapon to kill Katniss. Woo! And then just as PETA starts to heal and get, just a minuscule sense of self back, Coin throws him into an active war zone as part of her games. Major red flag from her. Because, again, she did this to try and kill Katniss. I mean, leave the poor boy alone, goddammit. And yeah, Coin is, she's the worst right now. That's the most important takeaway from this moment. And we're all still surprised that Katniss shoots her in the end. So anyway, let's just move on. We'll have plenty of time to talk about Coin as a character. I'm sure we'll have plenty to say in the wrap-up episode. Okay, so yeah. This is the biggest Coin red flag so far. And truly starting to show her colors. And and how, like, you know, she's not exactly the righteous leader of the rebellion we wanted her to be, or that she hoped, or that she, you know, tried to show us. Anyway, where were we? Okay, right. Bog's telling Katniss to go back to her squad. Katniss is having complicated feelings because it makes it harder to steal from Boggs after, you know, he's being that good to her. Katniss asks Jackson when her watches. Jackson isn't convinced that Katniss could handle it, that she wouldn't be able to shoot Peeta if she had to, which I agree with, by the way. But Katniss, being Katniss, insists that she can and says, and I quote, "I wouldn't be shooting Peeta. He's gone. Joanna's right. It'd be just like shooting another of the Capitol's mutts." Harsh much? Like, Katniss, girl, I love you. I know you're going through a lot. But yikes. Don't worry, guys. She'll get called out on it soon. Boggs tells Jackson to put Katniss on the watch schedule, despite Jackson, me, and probably quite a few others strongly disagreeing, but at least she's not assigned to do it alone, and clearly needs something to do. At dinner time, Gale offers to kill Peeta for Katniss, which I know is his just weird way of trying to help, but it's a pretty tone-deaf way of trying to help, to say the very least. Like, dude, that's what like 50 dings on the Gale red flag counter. Like, moving on. So Gale sort of, not really, makes up for it by offering to go with Katniss, because of course he knows she's getting ready to take off. They've been hunting together for years. They can basically read each other without speaking. Dinner is also tense because people are rightfully pissed at Katniss for treating Peeta so coldly. And Katniss gets a phone call from Haymitch, who tells her what I think we're all thinking in that moment. Well, all of us except Gale, and you know how it goes. I'll read it. So Haymitch says to Katniss on the phone, What are you trying to do? Provoke him into an attack?" he asked me. "Of course not. I just want him to leave me alone," I say. "Well, he can't. Not after what the Capitol put him through," says Haymitch. "Look, Coin may have sent him there hoping he'd kill you, but Peeta doesn't know that. He doesn't understand what's happening to him, so you can't blame him." "I don't," I say. "You do. You're punishing him over and over for things that are out of his control. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a fully loaded weapon next to you round the clock, but I think it's time you flip this little scenario around in your head. If you'd been taken by the Capitol and hijacked and then tried to kill Peeta, is this the way he would be treating you?" demands Haymitch. I fall silent. It isn't. It isn't how he would be treating me at all. He would be trying to get me back at any cost. No shutting me out, abandoning me, greeting me with hostility at every turn. "You and me, we made a deal to try and save him. Remember?" Haymitch says. When I don't respond, he disconnects after a curt, "Try and remember." So yeah, Haymitch essentially summing up what I was trying to say earlier. Peeta being an unwilling pawn in Coin's game. He, poor guy, doesn't understand what's going on. Anyway, later that night, League One finally breaks down over her sister's death because, you know, that happened last time. Let us not forget. And Katniss has a good moment of self-awareness. She thinks over what Haymitch had said to her about how she's treating Peeta, and she realizes on some level, at least, that part of the reason she's so fixated on killing Snow is because it's easier to think about than interacting with Peeta. And in her own words, she puts it, realizing with shame that my fixation with assassinating Snow has allowed me to ignore a much more difficult problem, trying to rescue Peeta from the shadowy world the hijacking has stranded him in. I don't know how to find him, let alone lead him out. I can't even conceive of a plan. It makes the task of crossing a loaded arena, locating Snow, and putting a bullet through his head look like child's play. All right, excuse me while I go crying in the corner. Anyway, so at midnight, Katniss wakes up for her watch with Jackson, and Peeta also not sleeping. He's making knots with a short rope, much like how Katniss did with Finnick when they were in the bunker during the air raid. And the first thing he says to her is like, wow, the last few years must have been so exhausting, deciding whether or not to kill me. And Katniss is like, well, to be fair, it was only that one time because I thought you were trying to kill me when you allied with the careers. And ever since then, we've been allies. And Peeta adds that word to the list of words he's using to try and figure Katniss out. Because, everything's confusing and he doesn't know what's real anymore. So then Finnick reveals, surprise, he's awake, and tells Peeta to ask, because it's what Annie does when she's confused about her own sense of reality. And, Jackson reminds Peeta that he can trust them since they're his squad, and he did help save a ton of lives in 13, and it's not something they forget. So Peeta starts to open up to the squad a little bit. And he also remembers that Katniss's favorite color is green. And she reminds him that sunset orange is his favorite. Ugh. I know I'm an insufferable Everlark shipper, guys, but this is what you signed up for when you listen to this podcast. Anyway, then it semi-opens the floodgates for Katniss. She goes on telling Peeta things that she knows about him, that he's a painter, a baker, that he likes to sleep with the windows open, never take sugar in his tea, which I think is his only flaw so far. And he double knots his shoelaces, which I hope everyone does, by the way. Like, how can you not double knot your shoelaces? Like, how close to living dangerous are you? But also, I love this moment so much because there's this collective idea, I feel like majority of the fandom, especially if you've only seen the movies, have, that Peeta loves Katniss way more than Katniss loves him, that she doesn't pay as close attention to him as he does to her. Well, I mean, this shows she does pay attention to him. Like, they may seem like meaningless facts, but these are just intimate details like you only would know about someone if you spent a significant amount of time together. Like, no one exactly goes around saying like, hey, fun fact about me, I like to sleep with the windows open. So it's the kind of detail that like couples or people who live together pick up on. And it's such a sweet but such a real moment, and I love it so much. Anyway, after she tells Peeta all this, Katniss retreats to her tent before she can cry. Aww. So the next morning, Katniss, Gale, and Finnick are filmed shooting stuff like, glass off buildings. And this is around the time that Jackson officially, coins the game Real or Not Real, which pretty straightforward. Peeta asked about something and someone tells him if the thing he's remembering is real or not real, followed by a brief explanation, which is really amazing that Peeta's putting faith into the people around him, some he barely knows. Excuse me. Because after the insane amount of trauma he went through, where a sense of reality was completely messed up and, trust issues must have gone through the roof. So it would be understandable if he never really opened up or trusted anyone ever again. But here he is, playing Real or Not Real, where he basically has to rely on others. And we also get a glimpse of how the game is going. And this moment hurts me because Peeta asked, most of the people died in 12 in a fire, which we know, of course, is real. Less than 900 made it out alive. And then Peeta asked if the fire was his fault, which not real, 1,000 times not real, 1,000,000 times not your fault, Peeta. 2,000% Snow's fault. Again, his reaction to property damage was genocide. Because, what the fuck did they tell Peeta while torturing him? My God. This is awful. I know people have said they want, a book from Peeta's point of view. They want Mockingjay from Peeta's point of view, which would be interesting to see what was going on behind the scenes in the Capitol during this time. But I don't know if I want to, because, guys, I feel like that would just be too much. It's bad enough having to hear about what he went through in the Capitol through Katniss's point of view. I don't think I want to experience it through his eyes. But anyway, where was I? So at first, Katniss is happy that the game is going well, but then she quickly realizes that she's the only one in the group who can answer the questions that are likely most weighing on his mind. Jackson organizes the watches in a way where Katniss, Finnick, and Gale will always be paired with a soldier from 13. That way, Peeta will always be able to talk to someone who knows him more personally. Gale fills him in on a lot of stuff about 12. Finnick answers questions about his game, since Finnick was, in the quarter quell with him, obviously, and he was a mentor for the 74th games, when the Barry incident happened. Conversations between him and Katniss, not so simple, because, much more loaded, and they kind of stick to superficial details like the color of her dresses, cheese buns, the names of the teachers they had in school. And the next afternoon, they have to stage a little bit of a more complicated propo, because Plutarch and Coin aren't a big fan of what they've been doing, since they're kind of just shooting stuff, nothing too exciting. So that day, they shoot in an empty, ultimately unimportant residential block where there are a few active pods, like, one that sets off gunfire. The film crew is going to, release some smoke bombs, add gunshot sound effects to add a sense of danger to the footage. Boggs gives Peeta a gun to hold for the cameras, though it's loaded with blanks. He makes sure to let the group know about that. Peeta says it won't matter since he's not much of a shot anyway. And this is when he realizes that Pollux is an Avox. He could tell by the way he swallows. And this is when also Peeta tells everyone that he watched Darius and Lavinia be tortured to death, and that they made awful animal-like sounds since they have no tongues. Though Lavinia was lucky because they used too much voltage on her, so she got a quick death. And Darius, unfortunately, was tortured for days before dying, and they kept asking him questions he obviously couldn't answer. But that was all just to make Peeta watch, not because Darius knew any rebel secrets. Big war crime, not just a war crime, but crime against humanity. Poor Darius, he did not deserve any of that. Again, I don't want to watch that scene through Peeta's eyes, because that's too awful. Okay, so anyway. Okay, Boggs confirms that the memory is real to the best of his knowledge. Peeta says he thought so because there was nothing shiny about it. We'll get an explanation about that later. Katniss goes over to Gale, and the two of them mourn the loss of Darius, who was their, peacekeeper sort of friend, and they now officially know Lavinia's name, the girl they saw get taken to the Capitol, and who was Katniss's servant while she was in the tribute center, and both times she was a tribute, and also a kind of friend. Anyway, so they move on and play act being in a fight for the propo. Turns out Katniss is not the worst actress ever. Turns out Mitchell is worse, because his attempts to look distressed make everyone laugh. And hold on, there is a paragraph left of this chapter. So, dun 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 dun. So it starts with Boggs saying, "Pull it together, 451, he says firmly, but you can see him suppressing a smile as he's double-checking the next pod, positioning the hollow to find the best light in the smoky air, still facing us as his left foot steps back onto the orange paving stone, triggering the bomb that blows off his legs." Yeah, that happens. That's just how the chapter ends, so break time for us. And we're back, and we're kicking off all the devastating deaths that we see in this book. Why, Boggs, why? You are too good for this world. Katniss reaches Boggs first, and I won't go into too much detail about his injuries because, one, I have a weak stomach, but let's just say he's missing his legs. And basically he's lost so much blood to the point where Katniss knows that there's nothing that can be done for him. So she's ready to sit by his side and be there for him as he dies, like she did for Rue and the woman from 6 in the Quarter Quell. But Boggs is being proactive and trying to help even as he's dying, because again, he's the best. He passes primary security clearance to Katniss, not to Jackson, his second in command, which is huge because, like, yeah, Katniss is a celebrity victor, but she's barely a trained soldier. But he really does trust her, and he has belief in her. Ugh. Oh, and by the way, some black gooey stuff is coming at them, the result of another pod. Don't know what it's made of exactly, but, but best to avoid it, probably. So Gale and League One use gunfire to create a path for them. Holmes and Katniss pick up Boggs and try to start carrying him to safety. And then another thing goes wrong. Peeta's been triggered into an episode and tries attacking Katniss. Yay. So Mitchell steps in, tackles Peeta, attempting to, get control over him, but despite all the torture, Peeta's still quite physically strong, manages to launch Mitchell further down the block that sets off another pod. Oh my god. And poor Mitchell is trapped in a net that, injures him so badly because it's made out of barbed wires. He's already extremely bloody. And I told you guys I'm weak when it comes to blood. Okay, Castor and Pollux manage to haul Peeta inside. Jackson manages to get the cuffs on him, and they lock him in a closet. The black liquid also releases some kind of fumes, likely very toxic, because, what isn't toxic in the capital? Also, absolutely no hope of helping Mitchell, so R.I.P. Mitchell, officially second member of Star Squad to fall. And then as his final act, Boggs puts the hollow into Katniss's hands and tells her, "Don't trust them, don't go back." I have junk mail. Don't trust them, don't go back. Kill Peeta, do what you came to do. And then he dies. R.I.P. Boggs. And now 3 members of Star Squad are dead. And they've barely started the mission. Also, for the record, I agree with the first 2 things you said, Boggs. Third thing, highly, highly disagree with. I don't care how practical you think it is, but just know. As for the last thing, I agree and disagree at the same time, because I'm all for supporting Katniss's journey to killing Snow, but knowing how it turns out, I'm not sure if it's worth it. At least we know for sure that Boggs was 100% on Katniss's side. Also, I think I mentioned this channel before. She doesn't make videos anymore, but the YouTube channel, Story Diver, she did a lot of Hunger Games videos, and those are really good. I, binge watched them a couple years ago when she was actively making them. But she mentioned this one, what if scenario, what she thinks would have happened if, while they were in the Quarter Quell, Peeta was the one who was rescued and Katniss was taken by the Capitol and hijacked. Basically, the scenario ends with, because Peeta would be in charge and he would be in charge of being the figurehead of the rebellion, or the face of the rebellion, sorry. He would have been like, let's go back. He wouldn't have come up with Katniss's plan, and everyone would have gone back, and people would have lived. I'll find the video and link it in the show notes below, because I'm explaining it horribly. But anyway, no time to stop and mourn Boggs, because don't forget, they did set off a whole street full of pods, and there were definitely surveillance cameras, so definitely caught the attention of someone they don't want to have the attention of. Plus their radio communicators went down, likely the result of a pod or similar device. And Jackson and Katniss get into a little bit of a witty-bitty argument. That was a weird noise. Because Jackson's like, okay, need to get back to base. I know how to. Give me the hollow, Katniss. Which, it makes sense. She's second in command, after all. In any normal circumstance, leadership would fall to her next. But these are not normal circumstances. And Katniss Everdeen is famous for not following orders or doing what's expected. Katniss is like, no, Boggs gave it to me, so I'm keeping it. And Holmes backs her up since he saw Boggs transfer primary clearance to her. So Katniss on the spot makes the story that she's on a special mission assigned to her by President Coin to assassinate President Snow. Jackson rightfully doesn't buy this. She's aware of how much Coin doesn't like Katniss, and the conversation escalates, so to say. Guns are pointed, half on Jackson's side, half on Katniss's. In the end, Cressida is the hero of the day. I love her. She's an underrated queen. She backs Katniss up, knowing full well that her story is bullshit. But Cressida tells Jackson that, no, Plutarch wants to get footage of the Mockingjay assassinating President Snow, airing it on TV to end the war faster. And for a second, the lie seems plausible until Jackson asks, why in the world would Coin send Peeta into the field with them? After all, he's not exactly in the best condition for a stealth mission. And once again, Cressida saves the day. She says that Peeta is the most familiar with the interior of Snow's mansion, so he can provide them with the best intel of the place. Gale reminds everyone they don't have time. He's with Katniss either way, and if anyone wants to turn back, now's the time. No one does. And they also, unfortunately, have to leave Boggs behind. But, he would understand, as Finnick points out. Katniss gets Jackson to help her with the hollow by using the power of guilt tripping. Saying Boggs that said, he said, I could count on you, Jackson. And low blow Katniss, but unfortunately necessary. They determined that the best way to get out is to go the way they came in. Black goo stuff probably triggered and absorbed other pods and probably disabled the cameras. But they still had to put on gas masks because toxic fumes. Finnick also carries in unconscious Peeta. Oh yeah, they had to, sedate him because, his episode was still going on, and at least the goo didn't leave any of their footprints behind, so wouldn't give them away too much. They travel a few blocks and end up hiding out in an apartment building, thankfully evacuated. The apartment they hide in, whoever been there had, clearly been in a rush when they were leaving, left the lights on, door open. Kind of like that one time, my grandmother ran out of her house with only her keys, leaving behind her purse, door open, TV on, and just probably ran every red light because my father forgot to pick me up from school when I was in kindergarten. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, where was I? So Katniss, she starts spiraling a little bit, wondering how she's going to lead everyone, especially with Peeta, and low-key wishes it could just be her, Finnick, and Gale. And she even considers just, coming clean to Jackson before, realizing they'd have to go back to camp and she'd eventually have to answer to Coin, and no one wants that, especially after what Boggs said. Katniss's thoughts are also cut off by a series of explosions they hear, but Jackson assures everyone that it's not close to them, and that and then the television suddenly turns on and they panic, but Cressida's like, oh no, it's cool. Don't need to panic because it's an emergency broadcast that every TV in the city automatically turns on when that happens. And the broadcast naturally shows the Star Squad appearing to die, voiceover and everything. Even give a little tribute to the fallen, like how it's done in the Hunger Games with their pictures and their names showing. So, again, I don't know what everyone was talking about when we all saw and/or read Mockingjay, and they're like, it's boring, there's no Hunger Games. Like, this is what it is, guys. It's right here. It's spelled out right here in front of us. Anyway, on the bright side, they're now dead, and no one will be looking for them. On the not so bright side, that means their families will see the footage and think that they're dead too. The fact that the rebels don't even try to interrupt the broadcast is evidence to Katniss that they really do think they're dead. So, kind of on their own. And to make the mood even better, I'm going to just read the last paragraph for you guys. So, literally, the last, half page, it starts with Gale saying, so now that we're dead, what's our next move, asked Gale. Isn't it obvious? No one even knew Peeta had regained consciousness. I don't know how long he's been watching, but by the look of misery on his face, long enough to see what happened on the street, How he went mad, tried to bash my head in, and hurled Mitchell into the pod. He painfully pushes himself up to a sitting position and directs his words to Gale. Our next move is to kill me. Yeah, that's intense and dark, and I don't like it. I don't like this at all. So it's break time. That lovely note. We'll unpack this when we get back. And we're back. I've collected myself, mostly. I can do this. Okay. It's been a hot minute since I've done a more lengthy reading, so I'm going to read the conversation that happens at the beginning of this chapter. That makes 2 requests for Peeta's death in less than an hour. Don't be ridiculous, says Jackson. I just murdered a member of our squad, shouts Peeta. You pushed him off you. You couldn't have known he would trigger the net at that exact spot, says Finnick, trying to calm him. Who cares? He's dead, isn't he? Tears begin to run down Peeta's face. I didn't know. I've never seen myself like that before. Katniss is right. I'm the monster. I'm the mutt. I'm the one Snow has turned into a weapon. It's not your fault, Peeta, says Finnick. You can't take me with you. It's only a matter of time before I kill someone else. Peeta looks around at our conflicted faces. Maybe you think it's kinder to just dump me somewhere. Let me take my chances. But that's the same thing as handing me over to the Capitol. Do you think you'd be doing me a favor by sending me back to Snow? Peeta, back in Snow's hands, tortured and tormented until no bits of his former self will ever emerge again. For some reason, the last stanza to the Hanging Tree starts running through my head, the one where the man wants his lover dead rather than have her face the evil that awaits her in the world. Are you coming to the tree? Wear a necklace of rope side by side with me. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be, if we met up at midnight in the Hanging Tree. Really intense dilemma, very dark, and almost can't help but wonder like what you would do in this situation. I'm sure you could have many philosophical debates about this scene, as you can with many scenes in the Hunger Games, but I don't feel like having it because it's too dark and sad. And also the interpretation of the song is a bit off because we know Billy was selfish and possessive of Lucy Gray and was like, well, if I can't have you, you're dying alongside me. Billy doesn't talk like that, I'm pretty sure, but that's what came out of my mouth just now. Speaking of terrible guys, Gale offers to kill Peeta again, and like, calm down, dude. It hasn't even been like 10 pages later. Why are you so eager to kill Peeta like that? Jesus Christ. Anyway, Peeta requests a nightlock pill in case no one can kill him before he gets captured again, because Coin didn't give him one, probably worried that he'll, take it before having a chance to kill Katniss. No concern at all if Peeta gets kidnapped and taken back to his abusers again. Killing Katniss, much more important. Anyway, I'm going to keep reading because there's a passage afterward that is that it's too good. It's too good not to read. It's unclear if Peeta means he finished himself off now to spare us having to murder him, or only if the Capitol took him prisoner again. In the state he's in, I expect it would be sooner rather than later. It would certainly make things easier on the rest of us, not to have to shoot him. It would certainly simplify the problem of dealing with his homicidal episodes. I don't know if it's the pods or the fear or watching Boggs die, but I feel the arena all around me. It's as if I'd never left, really. Once again, I'm battling not only for my own survival, but for Peeta's as well. How satisfying, how entertaining it would be for Snow to have to kill him. To have me kill him. To have Peeta's death on my conscience for whatever is left of my life. It's not about you, I say. We're on a mission, and you're necessary to it. I look to the rest of the group. I think we might find some food here. I got chills reading that. Particularly the line about, the arena being all around her. PTSD sucks. Anyway, after that, they go through the supplies they have. All they have are the cameras, the medical kit, uniforms, their weapons. So half the group has to go looking for food and others stay to watch PETA. Marcel is the best person in finding food because he apparently had lived in an apartment that was nearly a replica of this one, so he knew all the places where food could be stored / hidden. And as a result, they're able to find about 30 canned goods and boxes of cookies. The soldiers from 13 are horrified and disgusted by all the hoarding, since such a thing is very illegal in 13. Whereas, in the capital, you'd be stupid not to, because we saw young Coriolanus's flashbacks in Ballad. If you didn't store food, you pretty much just went hungry. And this is the perfect, it's a really good example of just the different ideologies of the capital in 13, because in 13, they're all about working together, being efficient, making sure everyone has something to eat. And in the capital, it's all about, excess and individualism. And both are taken to the extreme, obviously. And I have heard of analysis comparing 13 to communist Russia, but I'm not qualified to talk about that in depth, so go seek that out yourselves. Both sides clearly are not noble good guys or whatever, and I suppose this could be seen as a reading of how extreme communism and, extreme capitalism are not the way to go. That something more in the middle would be more ideal. Anyway, so as much as the people from 13 hate the food hoarding, Gail points out, practical as ever, lucky since they have dinner now. And as they sort through the food, PETA hands Katniss a can that's labeled lamb stew. A reference to how, during their first games, Katniss mentioned how the lamb stew was her favorite thing to eat in the capital, and part of the feast that they had in the cave. It's unclear if PETA handed her that specific can by coincidence, or if he actually remembered that detail. Either way. And as the group eats some cookies when the broadcast comes on then, and Snow makes a speech to the nation. He goes on about how Katniss is dead, nothing special, she's not a real leader, just a random person picked from the masses, blah, 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 bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. She was apparently special enough to remind you of your ex, Corio, enough to drive you crazy. Anyway, so then Beetee interrupts the broadcast, and then Coin is there giving her speech. She introduces herself as the leader of the rebellion. She says, dead or alive, Katniss is the face of this rebellion. We will fight in her name, honoring her, all that good stuff. And Katniss says in the most sarcastic way possible, I had no idea how much I meant to her. Only Gail seems to find it funny. So, on some level, Gail, do you recognize that Coin's a problem since she hates someone you supposedly love and care about? Whatever. I'm still going to count it as a ding on the Gail red flag. Did I forget? Wait, I think I forgot to say there was a ding on the Gail red flag counter for when he offered to kill PETA a second time. Oh, well, I'll add 2 more. But anyway. So anyway, after the little tribute to Katniss, Beetee gives control back to Snow, who, he's still, poised, looking in control, but he's definitely pissed. And Katniss and all of us are sure that someone's going to die as a result. Seriously, I can't imagine how afraid everyone in the capital is now of Snow ever since, PETA spilled the tea or the poison, to say the least. Anyway, so then Snow declares that the next day they will pull Katniss's body from the ashes of the building, and the group realizes, okay, we have limited time now. Since, they'll discover that there are no bodies, and they'll be like, oh, shoot, they're alive, and start hunting them again. So Katniss decides that they should get a head start, though looking at the holo, it's clear that an even more dense amount of pods are laying ahead, and those are just the ones they know about. Since, and it becomes clear that traveling above ground would almost be impossible, so they have to go underground, which, of course, Katniss hates the idea of because, past drama, as we've well established. But at least they'll be able to access the sewers from the apartment building, so the group cleans up the place as best they can. make it look like they weren't there. PETA throws a bit of a hissy fit, refusing to go, though Jackson makes it clear that PETA's coming with them, conscious or not. And I can't help but think of that one scene in Wakanda Forever when Okoye and Shuri are telling Riri, okay, you gotta come to Wakanda with us. And Riri's holding up her speaker or whatever, and it's like, oh, hell no. Okoye's like, small girl, you can come to... that's a terrible accent, I'm gonna stop trying. Okoye's like, you can come to Wakanda conscious or unconscious. I love that scene so much. And I love all three of those characters so much. Anyway, actually, I pretty much love all the characters in Wakanda Forever. But anyway, moving on. What were we talking about? Where was I? Oh, right. They tell PETA, you're coming with us, whether you like it or not. Also, quick reading here. PETA's like, stop being noble. I don't care if I die. He turns to me, pleading now. Katniss, please, don't you see I want to be out of this? Trouble is, I do see it. Why can't I just let him go? Slip him a pill, pull the trigger? Is it because I care too much about PETA or too much about letting Snow win? Have I turned him into a piece in my private game? That's despicable. But I'm not sure it's beneath me. If it's true, it would be a kindness to kill PETA here and now. But for better or worse, I am not motivated by kindness. Yes, Katniss, right. You're not motivated by kindness. You're motivated by love. And you have the audacity to be selfish enough to want PETA to live. So yes, truly a terrible person you are. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic here, guys. Anyway, when they find the passage way down to the sewers, Pollux and Castor have to leave behind their, insect shell camera thing since they won't fit through the doors. Thankfully, they have smaller backup cameras. Pollux is also having a panic attack because his life isn't tragic enough. After Pollux had become an Avox, he worked down in the sewers for 5 years. Never seeing the sun once. Yowza. Only reason he got free was because Castor managed to buy his brother's freedom. And then the old PETA that we all know and love pops his head makes a brief appearance, guys. PETA, he comforts Pollux by telling him that he is now the most valuable person they have on their squad. He'll know the tunnels better than anyone. And and it makes Pollux feel a little better. So, yay, old PETA. And compared to their above-ground travel, they make excellent time. And when they finally rest, Jackson, works out the guard schedule. Katniss is woken up for the last one at 6 o'clock. They got an hour before they need to leave. And poor Pollux has been awake all night because, can't sleep down there. Understandable reasons, because, PTSD hitting him very hard right now. The two of them play around with the hollow a bit, Katniss getting more familiar with how it works, and at some point she realizes that PETA is awake, and they have a sweet moment. Katniss gets him to eat some chicken and rice soup. We get an explanation of what PETA meant by these shiny memories. Basically, the memories that he's pretty sure were fake or tampered with have a quality where they seem kind of shiny, whereas the real memories are not so much. And it makes sense because when Katniss was done with the Tracker Jacker venom, she was seeing all kinds of weird things that felt in a way shiny, quote unquote, to her. Because pretty sure she saw goo exploding from a tree or something at some point when she was high on Tracker Jacker in the games. And, there's just a little bit left of the chapter, so I'm gonna read it. If I can find it. Well, that's good, I ask. If you can separate the two, then you can figure out what's true. Yes, and if I could grow wings, I could fly. Only people can't grow wings, he says. Real or not real? Real, I say. But people don't need wings to survive. Mockingjays do. He finishes the soup and returns the can to me. In the fluorescent light, the circles under his eyes look like bruises. There's still time. You should sleep. Unresisting, he lies back down, but just stares at the needle on one of the dials as it twitches from side to side. Slowly, as I would with a wounded animal, my hand stretches out and brushes a wave of hair from his forehead. He freezes at my touch, but doesn't recoil, so I continue to gently smooth back his hair. It's the first time I have voluntarily touched him since the last arena. You're still trying to protect me. Real or not real, he whispers. Real, I answer. It seems to require more explanation, because that's what you and I do, protect each other. After a minute or so, he drifts off to sleep. Shortly before 7, Pollux and I move among the others, rousing them. There are the usual yawns and sighs that accompany waking, but my ears are picking up something else too, almost like a hissing. Perhaps it's only steam escaping a pipe or the far-off whoosh of one of the trains. I hush the group to get a better read on it. There's a hissing, yes, but it's not one extended sound. More like multiple exhalations that form words, a single word, echoing throughout the tunnels. One word, one name, repeated over and over again. Katniss. And on that incredibly creepy note, that's the end of the chapter. End of the episode. I know what's coming next week, and I am not okay with it. What? Why, Suzanne? Why? Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening and putting up with me and my chaos. You guys know the drill. All the socials are linked in the show notes. Oh, and then link the Story Diver video, Alyson, and editing. Don't forget. And, if you like what you hear, subscribe, leave reviews, all that good stuff. That way, more people can find the podcast, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcast. If you leave a review that has a 5-star rating, I will read it aloud on the podcast. That's always an open invitation. And next week, we're going to, of course, talk about 22 to 24. And dang it, we're getting way too close to the end for my liking. Okay. I'm saying goodnight now. I'm bad at ending these episodes. Okay. Thank you all so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Hope y'all have a great day / night, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!